guys, how's it going? I just wanted to make a couple videos early season here to kind of explain some of the technique things or different exercises that we'll be playing before we really have a chance to meet in person. I imagine there'll be quite a few more questions once we actually start meeting up and playing together, but just to get a couple of those early on questions out of the way, I'm just going to compile some of the exercises and some of the information that I want you guys to be approaching it with. So for this first exercise, 8's or 8 on a hand, I'll kind of be going instrument by instrument, describing how I want everyone to be approaching the instrument, approaching the stick, the drum head. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. So we'll put the metronome at 108 beats per minute. And the first thing I'm going to do is just play match grip, just so everyone in the line is understanding the same philosophies as we kind of begin here. And then I'll move to talking a little bit more about what each instrument will do specifically. So I'll just play the exercise once. Most of you guys did pretty good in your auditions playing this with a pretty similar approach to how we're going to approach it this season. Here you go. So you'll notice I played all the way up at vertical here. A lot of the exercises don't have written dynamics on the sheet music for a reason, so that we're not kind of painting ourselves in a corner of what each exercise can work. We'll be playing this exercise, let me turn that off. We'll be playing this exercise all over the place at piano, mezzo forte, everywhere in between. But usually when we start out the day, we'll be playing all the way up, what I like to call vertical, fortissimo, 15 inches. We'll use quite a bit of different vocabulary terms this year, but the reason behind that is just to get the hands moving, the blood flowing, making sure we're not tense. And this will incorporate all of the muscle groups. So if you're, depending on where you are in school, if you're a beginner, if you're a vet, you may have heard a few different things in your drumming career of what muscle groups to use. For this very first exercise, I think it's really important to get everything involved just so that we can wake up not only the fingers, but also the wrist and the arm muscles. Cool. Just talking about from a traditional grip approach for you snare drummers out there, it's going to be the same thing, using each part of your traditional grip as a metaphor for your muscle groups on the right hand. So what I like to call finger on the right hand kind of has its own metaphor for this kind of base of the thumb muscle here. The arm motion will be slightly different. It won't move in the same direction as the hand. Otherwise it would go this direction, right? So we're going to use it a little bit towards ourselves as well as a little bit to the side, just so we can get a nice vertical up and down stroke. Cool. The most important thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the stroke type videos, but the most important thing is just to make sure that it's rebounding all the way up to the top of the stroke for the duration of the exercise. We don't want to get any reps that look like this, right? That's something called kind of dead stroking it. We want to make sure all the notes are speaking. Okay. For bass drum, you'll notice that one of your common variations is going to be just an 8th note split. So what we mean by a split part is you don't play every single note on the page, right? You're not always going to be playing every single 8th note, even though you will probably start with that as a unison, but eventually we'll just want it to be 1, 1, right? If you're playing the bass 1 part, for instance, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit more in the stroke type video, but even if you're only playing 1 stroke, and even if you're ending down, we have to make sure that it's not a tight, kind of dead sound there. Okay, for you tenor drummers out there, just as we're doing the around pattern to this, right? Making sure that we're not going too sideways with it. We're still rebounding to the top of the stroke, right? Vertical first before horizontal. And again, a lot of that stuff will be easier answered in person, so come prepared to our first rehearsal with any questions you might have on that. The only other thing I have to add to this is make sure you're playing at a variety of tempos, right? It says 108 on the audition, but that doesn't mean you can't slow it down to really try to work on that rebound. That doesn't mean you can't play it, quiet, faster, right? I think this is going to be an exercise that we definitely try to morph into a lot of different variations as we go throughout this season. Cool. Thanks, guys.